Let me start off by saying that Nihon Goshin Aikido is an amazing martial art. I don't think that I would be doing it for 28 years if I didn't think that. So what I'm about to say, I don't want anybody watching this thinking that I think otherwise. However, I'm adamant about saying that any martial art, any system of self-defense, any system of combat must constantly be looked at, it must constantly be scrutinized, and it must constantly evolve. Sure, you can teach what you learned and be in a bubble and live there pretty comfortably and keep your head up and say that you're teaching your martial art. Absolutely. However, I've never been the kind of person to kind of just rest on my laurels and just accept the norm. So I always took it upon myself to always ask those hard questions. I didn't always have the answers. That's what I've been searching for all these years, but I think I found some. So what areas of Nihon Goshin do I think need to evolve? Number one is weapons. Most Aikido systems teach sword, they teach jo, the short staff, for the most part. They teach long staff as well. It all depends on the system and area you learn. Now, for some reason, our art never taught sword, never taught jo. We do teach nunchaku, and we do teach baton, and we learn knife defense and baton defense. So I always thought in the ways of weapons, it needed a bit more. Now, we did do some extra weapons work with my instructors. He is cross-trained in so many other arts, but it was never codified. It was never formalized into lessons that are repeatable. I'm a firm believer, and after training in Kali for almost 7 years, I can tell you emphatically that working with weapons make other aspects, your empty hand aspects, better. It makes your speed, your agility, your timing, your sense of distance so much better. Even if you never have to use that weapon ever in your life, what it does for the other parts of your martial arts is definitely worth the effort. So that's the first thing I saw in learning how to use sticks, single stick and double sticks, learning the knife and the knife templates, and offensively using a knife is a big one for me. It's very hard to learn true self-defense or knife defense without knowing the proper way to use a knife. I always thought that was kind of not strange, and I get the methodology and why we learned it that way. And my instructor is pretty good with a knife, and he always, from time to time, threw little nuggets out there as far as attacking correctly and all that, for sure. But it was never codified. And this is what I'm attempting to do. So, you know, taking templates, knife templates, and the angles of attack, and properly learning how to hold and actually draw a knife, all make the defense part better. If you understand it as an attacker, you can understand it as a defender a lot better. Also, being faced with a proper attack from your fellow students who also learn how to use the knife and attack with it correctly, heighten that awareness. So with knife, again, there's schools of thought of this. You know, I hear sometimes, you know, there's no such thing as knife defense. Expect to get cut. Yes, I agree with that. I don't agree with the fact of saying there's no knife defense. There has to be. Or else if someone pulls a knife at me, unless I have a gun, then I can just put my hands up and say, kill me. No, there has to be a way to try to survive that knife attack. Will you get cut? Most probably yes. Okay. So learning how to get cut in places that aren't fatal is important. Learning how to change angles quickly and control the attacking arm, the knife wielding arm is very important. I think keeping it basic is important, but also training at a higher level. So when you get that adrenaline dump in a weapon situation, you're still viable, right? So if you train up here and you're faced with the nervousness and your heart beating, you know, that adrenaline dump you get in a real situation, it brings you down here, then you're still viable. But if your level is here, you never push yourself with possibilities and speed and whatever you may be faced with in a defense scenario in class. If you're here and then you get that dump and the nervousness and all that, and the shortness of breath that people get when they get nervous or faced with a stressful situation, then it goes down here and now we're in trouble. That's what I like about Kali. It gets you to train way up here, so when the proverbial crap hits the fan, you're kind of in the middle, then you have a chance. So that's what I like about Kali. That's what kind of the mentality I try to infuse into my students that I've learned from my Kali training. So that's one part, weapons for sure. The sticks, learning how to use sticks and the angles of attack, the stick grappling, all play hand in hand to what we do in Nihon Goshin. They're very much a close cousin. They are translatable very, very easily, given the right methodology of instruction. That's kind of what I've been working on. The next thing is close up, being able to deal with someone right here. Most Aikido doesn't have that inherently. My instructor had that because of his other arts and the way and what other things that he learned and just his mentality of defense. But again, it wasn't codified. It was brought up. We were shown it. We did drills for it, but never on a repeatable basis. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do, is take things like hubad, which I think are indispensable, and added to our normal one-hand block drills and our push block drills and all that we do, continuous blocking drills that we do in Nihon Goshin. Hubad is something we do almost every class. And it gets you to really understand distancing and control of the limb and awareness of the touch. There's so many nuances of Hubad that I've learned throughout the years that I think are indispensable in a class. The concepts of panatukan, the Filipino dirty boxing, are great. Not just in method of attack, but learning those angles of defense and learning how the destructions and learning all those angles that panatukan gives you. And the control of the body is very much a plus. And again, and it makes the attacks much more formidable that we're faced with as a defender in class. And lastly, this doesn't pertain so much to Kali, although FCS does have groundwork, ground defense. We did ground defense every once in a while with my instructor. It was basically more judo-based stuff. But I think learning a codified way, a stripped-down, basic approach that would come from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I think is important to include in our system. And once again, I put my my body on the line, and I, just a few years ago, just like I did with Kali 7 years ago, I decided to train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was 46 when I started. So, yeah, I've had injuries and torn bicep and shoulders and bad knees and all that stuff, but it's worth it. Again, going out there and putting the white belt on and learning Jiu-Jitsu and bringing back just basic concepts. I'm not saying I teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at my school. I don't do that. But I do teach basic concepts. I do teach basic escapes, basic attacks, basic submissions. Because it's part of what we do anyways. It's just a more refined way that I've been learning. So that still has some work to do, and that's my next kind of project that I've been working in my spare time. But that's something also that needs to be addressed in Nihon Goshin, I think. So yeah, those concepts of Kali, the close-in work, the weapons work, and the groundwork, which all the grappling, the stick grappling, can easily be translatable to groundwork as well, are the facets I'm looking at that I've been working on. And for me, it's important to codify it. It's important to include drills that a student can repeat and learn. And then, of course, once you learn those drills well enough, then you can step outside the drill. You can step outside the template. And there's another thing I'm learning from Kali, that flow. I think it's important to have. And that's kind of what I'm doing with it. Right or wrong, it's up to you to judge. I think it's right. I think it's the right approach. I think it's the next stage of evolution of the art. Still working on it. Everyone might not agree. That's okay. You don't have to. The only people that have to agree are my students that come through the door. I say that all the time. And I say that without ego. But it's the way I feel. So that's kind of what we're working on here at the Academy. And, it's always evolving, always asking those hard questions. And thanks for watching. And I hope you enjoyed these little interview series. Again, it was a little self-indulgent, I know, but that's okay. I think my students I've appreciated it, and maybe future students that are watching us to kind of see what I'm about and what my mindset is. Thank you.